Happy Tuesday, everybody. Is it tacoing where you are? Again, happy Tuesday to everybody. Welcome back to another live. Today is court day 10, you guys. Court day 10, week 3 of the U.S. government versus Sean Puff Daddy Combs. Okay? So, again, come on in, hit the like button, subscribe if you are new, hang around, show us some love, and again, engage in the chat, engage in the conversation. Now, let me tell y'all something right here, right now. Don't come up in here trying to shake the table, okay? You are more than welcome to voice your opinions and have your supporting facts and have your own thoughts and so on and so forth. But trying to come up here and argue with me about mine, that's what we not fin to do, okay? So definitely stay, true to yourself and stand on what you stand on, believe in what you believe in, but don't come over here trying to shake and make me switch and change my beliefs, okay? Greatly appreciated. Thank you very much in advance. Okay. Anyway, hey, mom of twinsies. Happy Tuesday. Last hour at work, but I'm here. We got Anais in the building, loving myself, Ezra's mom, Mary Blue. Hello, everybody in the bushes. Again, it's 15 people so far coming in the building, and I would like for y'all to hit the like, okay? So without further ado, hey, Rakaya, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get on in. Yes, respect the host. I'm not asking for much. But at the end of the day, y'all already know we're going to have a good time. So welcome back to another live recap of the Diddy trial over here on Fun, Faith, and Foolery with your girl, none other than Yanni Bonnie B. Don't forget the B, baby. That's the most important part. Okay? So let's get into it. So first of all, it was a long weekend. It was a 4-day weekend. I'm not going to lie. We came live Friday, right? And we did a recap, just a week 2 recap on how everything went and, just kind of refreshed everybody's memory, so on and so forth. And I was a little sad that there was no court Friday. And I was a little sad that there wasn't any court yesterday. Although this is a very serious matter, I've been very, baby, entertained, interested, investive, in whatever you want to call it, invested, insertive, well, you name it, baby, I've been there, okay? So like I said, let's go ahead and get into it. Again, hit the like on the way in, and let's go. So today, pick back up again with the 10th day, week 3 of the Diddy trial, okay? This morning, court was back in session as Capricorn Clarke, former Diddy assistant, former marketing manager, and brand manager for Cassie, took the stand. Now, we heard about Capricorn Clarke last week, okay? They said, I'm ready to hear that verdict, biggest case since OJ. Yes, no disrespect. Y'all know, talk amongst yourselves in the chat. No problem with that. I'll read everybody's comment and get to it when I get finished. Let me just focus on the task at hand. So, like I said, today, kick back off. Like I said, day 10, week 3 in the Diddy trial. And like I said, this morning, court picked back off with Capricorn taking the stand. Now, we heard about Capricorn last week from Kid Cudi, when Kid Cudi took the stand and he testified that, Capricorn was a friend of his, that he met, I guess mutually through Cassie. He also stated that, they hung out a lot of times and that, Capricorn was a really good friend of Cassie's, so on and so forth. So today we got to hear from Capricorn Clarke herself, okay? And like I said, she is a former Diddy assistant. She also is a former marketing manager and a brand manager for Cassie, okay? And she talked about the work that Diddy in the company, the work that she did for Diddy in the company, and her time working with them was from 2004 to 2018. And she talked about meeting Diddy back in 2002 through a mutual friend by the name of Jeanette. And that about 2 years later, she was contacted about a position as an executive assistant. And, after having prior experience, because she did work at Def Jam. So after having prior experience working with Def Jam and, getting a call, she was like, cool. Diddy called me. He wants to work for Bad Boy. In her mind, she's thinking, I've already had the experience working with Def Jam. Absolutely. Right. And again, they've already met each other 2 years prior through this mutual friend. Right. So again, let's go back to 2024. So again, she mentions that again, she received the call. She, talked to Diddy about it and everything worked out. she's working with Bad Boy. She mentioned that Diddy found out that she was a friend of Suge Knight's baby's mom, and took her out. Now, she didn't specify what baby mom, but she was saying that, Diddy found out, that Diddy found out that she was a friend of Suge Knight's, okay? And if you guys know, Suge Knight and all of them, they've had a rivalry with Diddy for decades, okay? A long time. I don't even know how far it goes back, but they've had a riff for quite some time. And we also heard testimony from Diddy's former personal assistant last week, who testified that he had witnessed some situation transpire between Diddy and Suge back at Mel's Diner. And he talked about a situation where him and D-Rock, him being the personal assistant, David James, they had went down to Mel's Diner to grab some burgers for Cassie and Diddy, and ran into Suge, right? So if you guys missed that we talked about that last week, definitely go check that out. But so we're privy to knowing that Diddy and Suge have had a beef. And again, not even just privy in the real world, but even since this case has started, we already heard testimony again last week that Diddy had his personal assistant and his security ride out to go and find Suge after spotting Suge out at Mel's Diner, right? So we already know that there's a rift between Diddy and Suge. And Diddy finds out after hiring Capricorn Clarke that she is a friend of one of Suge Knight's baby's mom. So that causes an issue, right? And so Diddy basically mentions, like, if anything happens, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna let you know something. You're gonna go missing. You're gonna go swimming. Is pretty much how that was stated, right? And so it says, it says that she also testified that, again, she was given this threat along with Diddy and another one of Diddy's associates, and they kind of took her out and was like, listen, if something happened, we won't let you go missing, and kind of let her figure out to read between the lines, to basically keep her mouth shut, and anything that happens with Bad Boy, keep that between Bad Boy. That's not to get out, right? So she also spoke about a press event that Diddy did with 50 Cent back at MTV while sharing the same management. So back in the day, 50 Cent and Diddy shared the same manager, which was Chris Lighty. And according to Capricorn, they were doing some press event for MTV, and Diddy and 50 were in the same building, right? And she also goes on to say that when they got onto the elevator, that Diddy said to Chris Lighty, like, all the back and forth stuff, I'm not really into that. Like, I play with pals, basically. I'm with that action. Like, all of that back and forth, and I'm not with none of that, okay? It's pretty much what Capricorn said. Diddy said, like, Diddy let his manager know, get your mans for he go missing, type-ish, right? So, Capricorn is Lauren London's sister, so she calls her London. They're friends. They're not, I don't think they're biological sisters, but they're good friends. And Lauren London also worked during the Sean John campaign, the female Sean John campaign. So I think they're more so sisters and friends from, the nature of their relationship. Because Capricorn also said that Cassie was like a sister, right? So when we heard testimony from Capricorn, she said the same thing. So you can't really go too far with her. But in any event, let's continue. So now again, remember Diddy's former assistant, David James, also, said that he was asked to do, run errands, set up the room, make the advanced rooms, go run and do drugs. And that's pretty much what Capricorn is saying her job entailed too. She said that she pretty much, again, was responsible for advancing rooms. She was responsible for making certain purchases with the Bad Boy credit card. She was responsible for kind of making arrangements and going with Diddy. She was also saying that she also was responsible for cleaning up the room. Again, same thing that David James had said that he was responsible for doing while, being his errand boy, cleanup boy, okay? So she also went into talking about a time that Diddy had borrowed some jewelry from Jacob the Jeweler. You guys know Jacob the Jeweler is a big jeweler. A lot of influencers and a lot of hip hop artists, have backed him up and worn his jewelry and promoted him and so on and so forth. So she spoke about a time where Diddy had borrowed some jewelry from Jacob the Jeweler, and while they were on some type of trip, she was in charge of keeping up with this particular jewelry, and that after whatever said event, long story short, the jewelry goes missing and they blame her. And she said that she was forced to leave the trip and go back home. She was devastated. She had not stolen the jewelry, according to her. She's like, she doesn't know where the jewelry went. And, she was just really upset that she was being blamed and she had to leave the trip. So she says that, after being forced to leave, she gets home, and that, once she gets home, that she is picked up by a gentleman named Uncle Paulie. Now, Uncle Paulie is Diddy's main security guard, okay? And so following this incident with the whole stolen jewelry, she's saying that by the time she gets back home, Paulie is already notified to get her and kind of keep her close tight. And she says that once Uncle Paulie picked her up, that she was brought to some type of random building, which we later find out that ended up being one of the office spaces for Bad Boy. She says that she's taken to this abandoned building, and that Uncle Paulie takes her to the 6th floor, and that when she gets to the 6th floor, there's a heavy set man who's like six times her size, and he's sitting at this polygraph. He's sitting in the room, in the center of the room, with the polygraph machine. Now, again, remember, David James also testified last week that a watch and a bracelet had gone missing, that one of Diddy's watches and one of Cassie's bracelets had gone missing. And remember, he testified that Diddy accused him of taking both said items, and that Diddy had, threatened him about taking both said items, and that, remember, that he had to do a polygraph as well, and that he admitted that although he did not take the bracelet and the watch, that he was responsible for taking a pair of Sean John jeans, as well as I believe he said like a couple bottles of Ciroc and a few other items. So we know that Diddy is not privy to, or he's not against, allowing or making people come in and test his employees, or, I don't know if he's ever administered himself. It seems like he's had someone else do the test both times. So I don't know if there's a professional. I don't know if there's somebody on his payroll. We don't know, right? But Capricorn says that, again, Uncle Paulie picks her up after the trip. She gets back. He takes her to this abandoned building. There's a heavyset guy in the middle of the room, and she is asked to take this polygraph test 5 days in a row. Now, granted, she's not made to stay there. She can go and come back, but she's asked to take this polygraph test 5 separate days, right? And they also threatened to put her in East River. They also threatened her if she failed the polygraph test, that they were going to put her in East River, right? So, and that she would go missing pretty much, right? And yeah. She said that she was very, very terrified. She was afraid. She didn't know what was going to happen in between the days of her taking the polygraph test. And like I said, we already heard testimony that this is not something far-fetched that Diddy would do. She also mentioned that, again, she was scared, and that, they told her, like, if she did not comply with the test, then she should be fearing for her life, pretty much. And she said that because they said that, she did fear for her life, and that's why she felt the need to comply, right? She also said that she was beginning to stress so much due to just the nature of the job and everything like that, that she began to suffer from alopecia due to being stressed. She said that she wasn't given any breaks throughout the day, that she was overworked. She worked from about 7 a.m. to 4 a.m., making about between 55 to 60K a year, right? And she also said that, she felt like something was going on with her salary, with her pay. So she went and skipped on down to HR about her overtime. And at that point of speaking with HR, she had at that point learned that she was making at least $80,000 sitting in overtime money. And that, when she kind of asked Diddy, to kind of sign it off or adjust the numbers or make the payout, if you will, that Diddy had ripped up the paper and pretty much walked away. Pretty much was like, you're not getting it. Okay. She said, Diddy ripped that paper up like, yeah, girl, you're not getting none of that. Okay. And she said, again, she was just very hurt, felt very betrayed, and didn't really know how to kind of maneuver with that, but she left that alone. She also talked about, again, like I said earlier, advancing rooms, again, cleaning them up. And again, according to Capricorn, Kim Porter stayed with Diddy very often in these hotel rooms, okay? Again, according to Capricorn, because she was the one setting them up and cleaning them up, she's stating that, she witnessed Kim being with Diddy a lot of times. She also witnessed, again, the drugs, the partying, the sex, the freak-offs, and so on and so forth. And when they asked her if she ever saw Diddy, doing drugs, she said yes, that, she saw Diddy doing a lot of drugs. She saw Diddy doing ecstasy. She saw Diddy doing prescription drugs, alcohol, so on and so forth, right? And so, again, I think even with last week, what you saw from prosecution was really trying to paint this picture of Diddy, really trying to show that he's this narcissist, he's abuser, he does drugs. And not only does Diddy do his drugs, but Diddy, the people that Diddy has hired, right, his employees that he already has hired to do other jobs, he is now employing and instructing them to do other jobs, other illicit jobs, other jobs for hire, right? So that's where the whole racketeering comes in. Him having his assistants go out and get drugs with cash, them being on the jet like David James testified last week that they were on the jet to Vegas with $50,000, which we know that they was probably using to buy drugs and pay for prostitutes, right? So again, I think that is what it is. I think that, like I said, I think that they're now prosecution is just trying to, again, slowly pull back the layers on this enterprise. You know what I'm saying? And all the parties involved. And now we see, like I said, everybody's already been given immunity. Well, not everybody, but the last 3 witnesses have been given immunity, right? We see that people are again testifying to the fact that, yes, I did buy drugs for Sean Combs. Like I did, pay for prostitutes with the money from Bad Boy. And depending on the purchases, some were made in cash and some were made using the Bad Boy credit card, right? So now that also goes to show, for example, with the baby oil, the Astroglide, the hotel rooms itself. Those hotel rooms itself where all of these freak-offs were taking place were not paid in cash, right? And we also heard testimony from the hotel manager at one of the hotels last week who said that Diddy had such a rapport for staying there that they created their own profile. You get what I'm saying? With the information pertaining to what Diddy had in his room and pertaining to, how to charge Diddy prior to, how to charge Diddy after the fact, so on and so forth, right? So even the hotel is already realizing like something just ain't right. And due to his excessive staying at these various hotels, they were like, yeah, we need to go ahead and put a little profile. So like they said, it was already noted to slap $1,000 straight off the rip. You get what I'm saying? Straight off the rip when Diddy come. Because between the oil and the cleaning up and the this and the that, Diddy be messing stuff up. Okay? Cocaine and all. Diddy F shit up. So y'all gotta go ahead and clean that. So let's continue, right? And so like I said, after that whole situation, with the polygraph and the stolen jewelry and all of that, she and all of the working and so on and so forth, she goes on, she kind of just continues with her job. And so she also talked about an incident that took place back in 2006. She talked about an incident that happened in Miami, okay? And again, this incident that took place in Miami happened back in 2006. And she said that, I guess she was at Diddy's house down in Miami. She didn't specify if it was Star Island 1 or 2, but she said she was down at Diddy's house on Star Island, and that Diddy didn't want her to leave. I guess she wanted to leave. Diddy didn't want to leave. And she says that, whatever function they were at, she left anyway. She left and did what she needed to do. And she was taking somebody's assistant home. She went to go take somebody's assistant home, right? And in the midst of her doing that, she says that, by the time that she got back, Diddy was very, very upset. He began yelling at her and, belittling her and, making her feel really much less than. And so the next day, she says that, there was a chef there. And she asked the chef, there was an exchange about what specifically she wanted the chef to make. And, the chef pretty much was like, we don't have that. Whatever the hell you asking me for, girl, get from around here. We ain't got that. And that she had made a remark that, she pretty much hated it here. Like, she pretty much really didn't want to be here. And that this particular chef had went out and told Diddy what she said. And Diddy came back shoving and pushing and berating her and hollering, and that he grabbed her by the shoulders and pretty much escorted her out. And she says that, after that, she quit in 2026. But then she went back in 2007, right? She also talked about a time where they were all together. She said it was her, Lauren London, Diddy, Cassie, and again, Lauren London used to work with Diddy, working with Sean John and working with the clothing line. So that's not far-fetched. And so according to Capricorn, and again, we know that Capricorn was, again, close friends of Cassie. And again, she worked with Cassie, like we said earlier, as a brand manager, right? So Capricorn also gives another account where they're all together, and she says that Diddy pretty much calls, Cassie out the room, and he's instructing Cassie to, walk this way, walk forward, walk left, walk right, do this, do that, and that Cassie is pretty much doing all of these steps that Diddy is asking her to do, and that when Cassie is done doing what Diddy has, instructed her to do, per se, that Diddy looks at herself and at Lauren London and says, see, this is why you guys, don't have a man, because y'all don't do this. Like, if you would do this, if you would submit pretty much and do what a man tells you to do, then this is what will be going on. You get what I'm saying? You would be good just like her, right? So let's continue, okay? So she talked about that incident, and she says that, again, after, she mumbled under her breath that she wasn't happy what was going on. And Diddy came in there, grabbing her up by the shoulder. She said she pretty much was out of there. And like I said, she says that she left right after that in 2006. But again, I stated, she did come back to working for Bad Boy in 2007, working as a manager for Sean John's women's brand. And also she said that when she did come back working for Sean John's women's brand as the manager, that, she made a little bit more money, it was a good fit. And she also mentioned that, Bad Boy did pay for everything. Now, keep in mind this part because it's going to come back around. But she goes in to mention that, Bad Boy paid for all of her essential needs, as well as her rent, phone bill, expenses, so on and so forth, right? So now with that being said, again, keep in mind Bad Boy is paying for phone bills, rent, expenses, etc., right? So now let's fast forward to 2011, and she starts working on a project with Cassie. And Cassie's pretty much, expressed to her that she kind of has a crush on Kid Cudi, okay? And that she was talking to him, and they've been flirting and so on and so forth. And that she wanted to invite him out. And Capricorn is pretty much like, girl, are you crazy? Like, girl, if Diddy finds out, this is our tale. Like, if Diddy finds out, baby, our behind is grass, okay? Our behind is grass is pretty much what Capricorn is saying to Cassie, while Cassie is over there all booed up and in love with catching feelings for Kid Cudi. So according to Capricorn, she pretty much tells Cassie, listen, like, hang up this phone call, delete all of our messages, delete all of these conversations. And she says that she goes on down and buys Cassie a burner phone so that Cassie could continue the relationship with Kid Cudi without being detected by Diddy. Now, we also heard from Kid Cudi last week during his testimony that Cassie did have 2 cell phones, and that he had a number that he contacted Cassie on, and that Diddy had a whole nother number that he contacted her on. So now that with that, to take that into consideration, I'm wondering if this said phone that Kid Cudi used to talk to Cassie on is the same phone that was purchased by Capricorn Clarke. Okay, so now she goes on to say, again, like, she provided hit the phone so that they can so that they can continue to talk. So now we're going to get into the Kid Cudi testimony and her conversation about Kid Cudi and how that went about. And now, according to Capricorn, she says that she she was awoken late night by Diddy at her door banging. And she said he was holding a gun. By the time she opened the door, she said that he was holding a gun and threatening her to get in the car. She said while telling her that he was going to kill her, kill Kid Cudi, and that she was going to become. Also learned in last week's testimony from Kid Cudi that there was an email sent. Now, this is where things get a little interesting with me for Capricorn. Now, listen up. Last week during testimony from Kid Cudi said that he learned that Diddy found out about the relationship between him and Cassie after an email was sent to Cassie, right? About said makeup bag, toiletry bag, whatever this particular bag was. According to Kid Cudi, there was an email sent to Cassie about this particular belonging she left behind, right? And that Diddy found this email, and that is how Diddy found out that the two were dating. But now when we hear testimony from Capricorn Clarke, where she's saying that she even had to go and buy Cassie a burner phone just to protect her, it's making me wonder if Capricorn was behind sending the email. Like if Capricorn shook the table a little bit by sending an email and then threw her hands and threw rocks and hide her hand. I don't know. I'm not saying that she had anything to do with it. Again, it just makes me wonder if Capricorn had anything to do with sending the original email to Cassie, knowing that Diddy might come across it. We don't know. Okay? So, yes. Thank you guys for the comments. And again, I'm not ignoring anybody. Give me a second. Let's just get through the commentary. So now, right? So now again, let's go back. So according to Capricorn, she is now woken up late night. Again, Diddy's at the door. Diddy's holding a gun. And he's threatening her like, listen, we about to go handle this dude. About to go handle this sucker. And you coming with me. Okay? So she's like out of fear for her life that she ends up going. Right? And so she says that they get in a car and they're riding. Diddy is very upset. He has the gun. He on his lap. He's yelling. He's screaming. And she says he's pretty much just irate, okay? She said that they get to the house, and that's where Diddy and his associates go into the house. Now, again, remember, let's go back to last week's testimony when we heard from Kid Cudi. He said he received a phone call from Capricorn Clarke on the burner phone. Remember, he said that's the call that they took on speaker. And he says that when Capricorn Clarke called him last week, she was in this didn't happen last week, but when he told us last week, he mentioned during the testimony that Capricorn called him from the driveway, sitting in a vehicle, pretty much alerting him of the fact that Diddy and two other men were currently in his home, ransacking it, right? So again, we're able to corroborate both stories. We're able to put together both stories, and both testimonies are kind of aligning. You have Kid Cudi saying he got a call from Capricorn that Diddy was in his house while she's sitting in the car. And then you have testimony from Capricorn saying that, yes, Diddy came and dragged her out of her bed and pretty much said, you're coming with me, and went over there with intent to harm Kid Cudi. Now, again, this is also, again, statement from Capricorn Clarke that's been asked by prosecution. For example, when she made the remark that Diddy said he was going to, off or unalive Kid Cudi, again, the prosecution knew what they were doing, let her get that off, because again, that also now shows attempted murder, right? Or you're, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you're attempting to do that. You're attempting to off somebody, and you went and got a witness. You went and got the young lady. You get what I'm saying? I wouldn't say in hopes, but you went and picked up you went and picked the young lady up, giving her the intention that is what was about to happen, right? So Capricorn says that, they go inside Kid Cudi's house, and that she takes, the time to call Cassie. Now, she says that when she, I guess, got Cassie to burn her phone, she must have just stored Cassie's name under Cassie. But she says that while she's sitting in the driveway, Diddy is kind of back and forth in and out of the house. And that's why she called them on speaker, so that she wouldn't have to hold the phone to her ear and be detected, right? So she says Diddy and, his associates, they finally come back to the car. And when they come back to the car, Diddy is asking her who was she on the phone with. Premeditated murder, right? Diddy's asking her who was she on the phone with. And Capricorn is saying like, oh, I was on the phone with my friend Stormy. Diddy, of course, doesn't believe her. And so Diddy takes the phone and Diddy, dials the last number. So I guess when he dials the last number, he's able to hear, I don't know if, that Cassie and Kid Cudi are together, right? And so that's kind of what went left. But then according to Capricorn, she said that at literally literally right after she had that moment, she says that Kid Cudi ended up pulling up on them. And that there was some alleged high-speed chase and between Diddy and Kid Cudi. And she goes on to say that the next day he got Cassie back, and that Capricorn ended up being like they ended up going to one of Diddy's hotels. Now, again, if we go back to Kid Cudi's testimony, Kid Cudi said that he was upset. Because remember, the meeting at the LA Soho house was not too long after the alleged break-in, right? Wasn't too long after that, right? And him just running into him. So I think that's why he was saying he was really shocked to see that Cassie had went back, because again, he had just gotten her the hotel at what is it, the Sun Marquee down in LA. He had just gotten her a hotel room. So I think it was confusing to him to see is glitching. Can y'all hear me? Let me know if y'all can hear me. I think it was confusing for him to see her with Diddy, because in his mind, girl, I just had to come save you from that, right? So I don't think he was, I don't think he knew what was going on. So she goes on to say that, they have this little quick high-speed chase, and that the cops are called. Now, remember, Kid Cudi did say that on his way there, he talked to Diddy. He said that he talked to Diddy, and Diddy told him, listen, I'm here waiting for you. But he did say that he knew he can't really pinpoint how Diddy's going to handle this, so that he called the cops to come to the house, right? And Capricorn says that, after that they kind of just left. She went on about her way with Diddy, and she didn't talk to Kid Cudi for the rest of that night. Kid Cudi also said that was the same night that he talked to the police. They did the report. He left. He went back to Cassie. They spent the holidays together. After that, that's when they had to go their separate ways. After the holiday, after the New Year's holiday, rolling into 2012, is kind of when the relationship subsided, right? And so she also talked about the aftermath of Cassie and Kid Cudi, and how, after that situation, after the whole situation, Diddy kind of felt like Capricorn was responsible for putting them together, and that she was kind of aiding and assisting Cassie with the whole relationship with Kid Cudi. And Capricorn, testifies that she witnessed, Diddy being so upset with the two of them that he beat Cassie over and over and over again the next day. And that Cassie was like pretty much like balled up, in a fetal position. And that he told her, he told her like, I should beat your behind too. And he pretty much, kicked her out and told her, go on about your business. And Capricorn said that at that moment, that's when she knew she had to get up out of there. And she called Cassie's mom, and she's like, listen, I cannot report this abuse, but maybe you can, right? And so that was pretty much where she was coming from with her argument, trying to figure out what's going on. And she said that Diddy once forced she just, like I said, even after the whole forcing her to move on command, right? We already see he has the ability to control and then humiliate, because you did it for the sole purpose, of Lauren London. So I'm not surprised that he would, beat that girl like that in front of Capricorn. We also heard testimony from Dawn Richards, who testified that she witnessed Diddy punching Cassie in the stomach at a restaurant down in LA with a couple other people. I believe even Kalina was there as well, at a dinner table. So, it's very interesting. the dynamic. And again, she testified again, like I said, that she was going to get drugs for him, that she was, she also talked about the time that she was asked to obtain drugs for Diddy. She said that during a trip to the south of France, that Diddy asked her to get cocaine. When Clarke asked who the drugs were for, Diddy responded, "Not me." Clarke said that she obtained the cocaine through a security guard and testified Diddy had her retrieve prescription drugs in her name, which he would pay for. Now, this is another thing. I'm sure if he was paying for the drugs, he was paying for it in cash. So not only that, now there's some fraud going on. Now there's, I don't even know if that would be considered insurance fraud more so than maybe like medical fraud or drug. I don't know how you do it, because now y'all writing out prescriptions for one person to get in prescriptions, and you not even, the prescriptions aren't even going to that person. You guys are using them for recreational use. You get what I'm saying? And then, like I said, and then you're paying for this. You're paying for this type of stuff, right? And I think that's the wild part. That's the interesting part, right? So, again, she just talked about the abuse that she saw. She just talked about seeing how, Diddy would treat her. She talked about how Diddy would not pay her what she was worth. She just talked about the nature of her job and what it entailed and what she was responsible to doing and what she was expected to do and so on and so forth, right? But the whole him threatening to kill both of them or I should have killed, like, that just goes to show how crazy, Diddy really is. And she, with closing argument, she pretty much stated that, Diddy had fired her. And she said that, even though he fired her, she felt like he fired her for something else. She said she felt like he fired her for they tried to make it like they fired her because she didn't do her paper. She didn't fill out the proper paperwork when it came to her PTO and her vacation time. But she feels like Diddy fired her due to the fact that she kind of initiated and assisted Cassie with having this rapport with Kid Cudi. And she went on to say that, she pretty much lost everything, like everything, her house, cars, everything that she had, her sanity, her peace, everything kind of left and went out the window when, her and Diddy were no longer working together. So defense was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Now we let prosecution do their thing. They're like, but we got a couple questions, right? And so they're like, well, weren't you sending Mr. Combs emails back in 2021 where she referenced to him as chocolate? And she pretty much was flirting with him also, again, trying to get back in his good graces, trying to figure out what's going on. My thing is, like I said, if you supposed to be a victim, or if you were supposed to be somebody that witnessed your friend being beat or your friend being in an uncompromising situation, where did you find the wherewithal to send Diddy some emails back in 2021? Now, of course, she pretended like she didn't know. And of course, the defense had the paperwork ready, pulled it up, and they showed them, she still tried to pretend like, she doesn't know, she didn't know. So my thing is, did you hit Diddy back up because you needed some money? You needed, a quick opportunity? Or was you hitting him up because you really enjoyed the free calls? It's wild. They said they probably fired her because they knew she would probably be the one to say something about the things that were going on. They said, wow, she went from being well off to having nothing. Yeah, having nothing. Having absolutely nothing, because that's powerful. They said she was smart for calling Lauren as well. They said, hopefully Lauren can back that up. They said when she mentioned mountain lions, I think that's the code word. Right. They said instead of Diddy going to his security, he went to. Thank you so much, Maureen. They said when Diddy get Carisha please, he did not pay 1 penny. They said makes you think all of a sudden that turned a blind eye. Right, exactly. Even if Diddy gets acquitted, no one's going to work with him. Right. He's definitely lost a lot of credibility and a lot of relationships, with the charges that he did catch. But again, I honestly feel like this with us rolling into with us rolling into week 3. Again, like I said to you guys in the week 2 wrap up, I feel like both parties are doing a great job to argue their defense. And another thing, I was watching the art of the what is it? The dialogue of art, the art of dialogue. Yeah, the art of dialogue. And he's had Gene Deal up there a couple of times, but I also watched the Gene Deal show. And one thing that Gene was saying is that, if Diddy was smart, that Diddy would go ahead and try to back out now and get it now. He said, because once they start, proving that he was paying for, various services with cash from the money of Bad Boy, from the, and, from the, they're going to try to get him for that. That's what they're going to try to get him. And he also said that, not only aside from that, again, just with the charges that he entails anyway, he's like, he really shouldn't gamble with that. He really should try to get his lawyers to go and back and see if that 5-year deal is on the table. Because according to Gene, he was saying that they're trying to put, I think it's called Bad Boy Global or something, Bad Boy Global and something else, and another entity of Diddy's, and they're trying to merge them together. And according to what Gene was saying is, if they merge them together, then they'll be able to take everything. So they're trying to rope all of his corporations together, rope all of his paperwork together. That way, when they slap it on him, everything can go down crumbling at once, and they don't have to do all of these litigations and in-betweens. They probably fired her because they knew she wouldn't be completely be the same. Something about that. Right. Right. They said the whole time she was using her as right. That's how she's You got desperate for money. Exactly. It said there's so many twists and turns in this case. It's crazy, but the way you break it down is good. Thank you. They said every time Gene has said he's been mentioned in everything Gene has said has been mentioned in other statements. They said Kirk Burroughs' statements for sure. I wonder when they'll have him up. Right. They said Gene's stories has been true. Right. Gene's stories always seem to add up. And again, what Gene is saying is, this ain't looking too good far as, Diddy with the prosecution. And like I said to you guys last week, I honestly feel like, I don't even feel like anybody's buying time. I feel like they're just now, and again, that's interesting. This was the first day that we saw outside of Cassie's testimony in Cross, where they had one person who pretty much took up the whole day. Okay? She pretty much took up the whole day. So, yeah, like I said, I think it's very interesting. I particularly can't say who is winning or who's losing right now. I think that it's not even 50-50. I think it's off if we're talking evidence, then we're talking facts. And I think, like I said last week, that the prosecution knows how to bring certain witnesses up to paint a picture, right? Anytime you're having to bring 2 to 3 people up there that you granted immunity, that shows the level of fear that you have, right? You want to completely start over. You don't want anybody to know, and you want the government to approve this message, right? That's different type. That's different type. That's next level. They said everything. Okay. They said, I wonder if they're going to bring some unexpected guests to testify. We'll have to wait and see. Today is Tuesday, so like I said, of week 3. So like I said, I'm excited to buckle up and see what they got going on, okay? But again, I thank you guys so much for rocking with your girl and supporting and hanging out and conversing back and forth, okay? Yeah, a lot of people got immunity. So if you missed this live, definitely run it back and catch it from the top so that you know what exactly we got into. And if you're an A1 Day One, hey. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hit a heart button on your way out. And I will see you beautiful people on the next one. Bye.